hard. Those fans, at least your team got swept by the best this season. With the postseason done, MLB honors will be out in the days to come. One of those, Silver Sluggers, the best offensive players for each position in the AL and NL. And the Orioles have some American League finalists. Catcher Adley Rutschman could have the best chance to win. And infielder Gunnar Henderson and outfielder Anthony Santander are finalists. Henderson is up for American League utility since he split his time between third and short. The awards are announced next Thursday night. Due to injuries, ball security issues, and lack of production, Gus Edwards is finally the Ravens' RB1. And after the NFL trade deadline came and went, the Ravens offense can finally just let the Gus bus drive the whole thing. Through 8 games, Edwards is on pace for career highs in carries, yards, could be his first 1,000-yard season, and touchdowns. He's coming off a 3-touchdown performance at Arizona. While not averaging 5 yards per carry this season, he's got more than 4. But for Edwards, this isn't anything new. It's just the fact he's getting the carries.
I think with running back, it's a position it's kind of like a rhythm position. So the more carries you get, the more in rhythm you get, and the harder you get, and you kind of get going. So that does help your confidence, and that does help keep you flowing through the game too.
Edwards did miss practice yesterday with a toe injury, but said he's fine for Sunday against Seattle. He returned to practice today, along with receiver OBJ, left tackle Ronnie Stanley, and edge rusher Odafe Owe.
All right, Morgan, thank you. This just into Fox 45 News. The jury in Marilyn Mosby's federal trial has been finalized. It marks the end of 3 days of jury selection. The judge said she hoped to get that jury sworn in by the end of today because court won't convene on Fridays. Opening statements are expected to start Monday. Mosby is being tried on 2 counts of perjury. No trial date has been set for her 2 charges of making false statements on a loan application. Stay with Fox 45 News. We'll have complete coverage of the Mosby case each day. Download the Fox 45 News app and turn on notifications to get breaking developments even when we are not on the air. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6, President Biden calls for a humanitarian pause in the Israel-Hamas war. We'll have a live report from Capitol Hill. And the suspect in the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur makes his 3rd court appearance. When we can expect for that trial to begin.
A new rule is keeping firefighters from immediately entering burning buildings. Why some say the rule could do more harm than good. Calls continue for an audit of the Safe Streets program. Fox 45 presses the mayor for answers after he agreed the office should be looked into. And the man who's accused of killing rapper Tupac Shakur pleads not guilty in court today. Look at the case and what we know about the suspect so far.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
And we're following breaking news. This just into our newsroom. A jury in Marilyn Mosby's federal trial has been finalized. It marks the end of 3 days of jury selection. The judge said she hoped to get the jury sworn in by the end of today because court will not convene on Fridays. Opening statements are expected to start Monday. Marilyn Mosby is being tried on 2 counts of perjury. A trial date has not been set for her 2 charges of making false statements on loan applications. We'll stay with Fox 45 News. We'll have complete coverage of the Mosby case each day. Be sure to download the Fox 45 News app and turn on notifications to get breaking developments even when we're not on air. Well, the Baltimore City Fire Department is rolling out a new policy on how to fight fires around the city. It comes after 2 firefighters were killed last month. 3 others died last year after a vacant building was set on fire and collapsed on top of them, some of the floors. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for staying with us. Fox 45 News has obtained a memo instructing firefighters not to enter burning buildings right away, but not everybody is welcoming this change. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has the story.
This memo directs firefighters to only fight fires from the outside until they're told otherwise. And the union says it's not only handcuffing its members, but it could be putting lives at risk. The past 2 weeks have been emotionally draining for members of the Baltimore City Fire Department. Friday, they laid Rodney W. Pitts to rest. And tomorrow, they'll say goodbye to Lieutenant Dylan Rinaldo. Both were killed after a house fire last month in West Baltimore.
We're dealing with it. We're mourning. We're exhausted. We're emotional roller coaster. We're trying to get through it.
And now a new internal memo from the department obtained by Fox 45 may be bringing even more stress to the table. Dated yesterday with the subject well-involved structure fires, it changes the way firefighters will attack fire. The memo says effective immediately, units arriving on the scene of a well-involved structure fire, whether occupied or vacant, will initiate an exterior attack only.
Normal operations for us are an aggressive interior attack. We have to do our searches and put the fire out from the inside. Baltimore is unique when that comes to row homes. If you don't put the fire out in a timely fashion, you could have somebody killed or you could burn the whole block down.
Union President Matt Koster says the change to existing protocol has many members upset.
Our job is dangerous. And to try and make our job safer is a move in the right direction, but we still have a job to do.
According to the memo, firefighters will need to attack from the outside until there's a significant knockdown of fire, a complete 360 evaluation, and a comprehensive risk-reward analysis. The incident commander will ultimately need to determine the structure is sound for members to go inside, leaving firefighters outside waiting.
Waiting for a chief officer to come on the scene and allow us to do our job, that's handcuffing the officers that are first arriving on the scene, that would normally be able to make those decisions. And for them not to be able to make those decisions, that's putting lives at risk.
According to the memo, if there is a credible report of a trapped person who can be rescued without causing injury to a firefighter, they can deviate from the directive. But Koster says it's not easy to know if someone is trapped inside unless you go in.
I don't know that many fires that I've been on or that our members been on where we actually see someone that's waving their hands out of a window. That would be great if that was the case, but normally that's not how it works. And so we asked for that wording to change.
Koster says while change is necessary to keep firefighters safe, they have a dangerous job to do, and he doesn't want to see them disciplined for doing it.
We don't want our firefighters and our officers second-guessing themselves on the scene.
We reached out to the fire department today to discuss this memo. We did not hear back. Koster says next week he plans to sit down with them and anticipates that some changes will be made. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Last January, 3 firefighters were killed and another was hurt after a vacant home on Stricker Street collapsed on them. The chief of the department at the time, Niles Ford, stepped down months later after a scathing report into that fire. The families of the firefighters are now suing the city. The city has also relaunched the Code X-ray program, which warns first responders about unsafe vacant homes. Now, Captain Dylan Ronaldo was one of 2 firefighters killed fighting that Northwest Baltimore fire last month. Funeral services are set for tomorrow morning at the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen on Charles Street in North Baltimore. We will have live coverage of the funeral here on Fox 45 News and online at foxbaltimore.com. Well, some new information a week after the FBI raided a Safe Street site and the homes of a number of employees. Former Mayor Sheila Dixon, who is also running for mayor again, says until an audit is done, the city's flagship gun violence intervention program that she spearheaded years ago should be suspended.
I believe that Safe Streets needs to halt, and I think that it needs an audit and to be reassessed to determine the direction that we need if it's going to exist.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost questioned Mayor Scott about the possibility of an audit and when it could happen.
Mayor Brandon Scott says he's talked with Comptroller Bill Henry and agrees there should be an audit of Monsey, but the way he wants it done means it could take years before it's completed. Pressure is building for Mayor Brandon Scott to take a deep dive into the city agency he created in 2020. The Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, is in charge of overseeing safe streets, and right now the federal government is investigating. Raiding the Bel-Air Edison Safe Street site 7 days ago, along with more than a dozen other locations, including the homes of 3 Safe Streets employees.
This is about looking and making sure that money and things are being spent the right way, and we welcome that.
Mayor Scott says the timing of the MONSE audit needs to follow what the voters want, meaning according to this 2016 city charter amendment approved by voters, it'll be up to the voters again to put MONSE on this list of routine audits, and that could take years.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I think everyone is in and settled.
We pressed him about why he doesn't just direct MONSE to turn over that information.
The voters of Baltimore voted to have audits, and they voted to have them in this way. And I can't direct the Department of Audits to do that because they don't work for me. We have
But you can tell MONSE to do it.
We've talked to the comptroller, who is in charge of doing audits for the city, and he and I agree that it should be done, and we're going to do it the way that the voters, the residents of Baltimore, said it should be done by the comptroller.
When you come out and talk about audits, but then you want to kick the can, it gives the implication there's something to hide. And you have time to hide things too.
Political analyst John Deedy argues the mayor has options and he should act sooner rather than later.
The longer you say, well, we got to go through this process, it's going to take some time, the more people wonder, is there something there they're trying to cover up or hide?
The city's biannual audit oversight commission includes these 7 people, 4 of them telling Fox 45 News they support a MONSE audit now, including Councilman Eric Costello, the chair, who says he supports making a request of the city auditor to conduct a performance audit of MONSE and Safe Streets. According to the city audits department's own website, the city charter gives the auditor sweeping authority to audit city-granted funds by any public or private agency.
The mayor needs to show leadership here, and whatever it takes to get this entity audited. There's no excuse.
Taxpayer advocate David Williams says the mayor could find a way to get an audit of MONSE done now, even if it means spending money on an outside company.
It is appropriate for the city to spend money for an audit because what they uncover could ultimately save more money than what's being spent on the audit. MONSE is spending a lot of money now. Taxpayers can't wait until 2025, 2026 to find out where the money is being spent.
Despite the majority of the audit commission supporting a look at MONSE now, Mayor Scott saying he wants to wait, all while the federal government continues to investigate.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda has been adopted.
And the city spending board approving more than $3 million from the State for Safe Streets program just yesterday. I asked Monsey what they plan to do with that $3.6 million the agency just got after the city spending board approved it. We also want to know if the agency plans to give some of that money to the Bel Air Edison Safe Street site that remains inactive. So far, we haven't gotten any answers. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And Fox 45 News has sent more than 30 questions to various organizations in the past few days, trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. You can read all of our questions and find any answers that we're getting on our website, foxbaltimore.com. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you agree with Sheila Dixon that Safe Streets should be suspended? So far, 98% of those who voted say yes. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to make your voice heard.
Fox 45 News is following a developing story. The 60-year-old man charged with killing rapper Tupac Shakur pled not guilty today in a Las Vegas courtroom. Dwayne Davis is accused of orchestrating that plan to track down Shakur, along with Death Row Records executive Suge Knight. Suge Knight was in the car with Shakur when he was shot and killed. Back in September of 1996, Davis has publicly said he was in the front seat of a white Cadillac when it pulled up alongside of Shakur in the car he was riding in, and that shots came from the back seat. Today in court, Davis was represented by two public defenders. The judge told Davis that prosecutors are not seeking the death penalty in the case, but didn't specify why. Right now, Davis's next court date is scheduled for November 7th.
The White House calling on Israel to pause military operations for the sake of civilians, including hostages. I'm Atrel Nashar with how this is clashing with Israeli war strategy.
And right around peak fall color around the metro area, actually past peak north and west of Baltimore. I'm going to let you know if you're going to be trying to catch some of these remaining colors. It's going to be warmer as we head into the weekend. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News continues our coverage on the war in the Middle East. Top left, the Israeli military has announced it's surrounding Gaza City and deepening its operations there. IDF officials refuse to comment on specifics of their operation, but says forces are in, quote, very significant areas of the city. Top right, the head of the main United Nations agency in Gaza says its fuel supplies are completely depleted. The agency says they won't be able to supply fuel to hospitals and water stations for the next couple of days. Bottom left, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken departed for Israel earlier today in his second trip to the country since the war began. He is expected to meet with the Israeli government tomorrow. And bottom right, Turkey has announced it's ready to help transfer and take in patients from one Gaza hospital that had to cease operations. The hospital is the only facility that provides cancer treatments in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the White House is calling on Israel to take a humanitarian pause in its war in Gaza so hostages can be released and aid delivered. Officials say this is different from a ceasefire, which they say would only benefit Hamas. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar is live tonight from Capitol Hill with the very latest on this new move. Atra?
Hey, good evening, Mary. This comes as pressure is building on Israel and the United States to do more to protect civilians in Gaza. According to the United Nations, as of this afternoon, they say about 9,000 civilians in Gaza have been killed. That's based on data from the Hamas-run Ministry of Health. Around the world, families of hostages held by Hamas will soon mark 1 month since their loved ones were taken on October 7th.
We've been out there looking for any clues, for any sign of life.
Dory Roberts of Austin, Texas, has 4 family members who were taken hostage and a 5th who was killed. He says it's an hour-by-hour struggle.
Sometimes we see videos published by the Hamas of the hostages, and that gives us some hope that they're held in somewhat good conditions and taking care for their health and needs.
The front page of the UK publication The Sun showing faces of 32 children with the headline, "Bring them home." Ari Perliger, an expert on extremist groups, says Hamas is likely trying to keep the hostages alive.
I think they understand that these hostages are significant leverage for Hamas in its effort to maybe promote some kind of end to the hostilities.
Israel claims Hamas is using civilians as human shields. Perliger notes in the past, Israel prioritized hostage safety in operational decisions, but he says that changed after October 7th.
The Israelis are willing to continue to engage in a very extensive military operations, despite the fact that they know that that may risk some of the hostages. The Israelis truly believe that they are now in an existential struggle.
During a campaign reception in Minneapolis Wednesday night, President Biden was interrupted by an audience member. She said, as a rabbi, she needs him to call for a ceasefire. The president said, "I think we need a pause, and a pause means give time to get the prisoners out." And the president, after that exchange, also said that he was the one making news, saying he's the one that convinced Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to pause shelling on October 20th to allow those 2 American hostages to get out. Now, duplicating that, Mary, seems less and less workable. You mentioned Israeli ground forces advancing in Gaza. And in the last couple of hours, we saw an all-out air assault from Israel into northern Gaza that lasted 20 to 30 minutes. That will certainly have ramifications for civilians.
And Atra, how is the White House explaining the difference then between a ceasefire and just a humanitarian pause?
Yeah, it's not just semantics. There are practical meanings behind humanitarian pause versus ceasefire. John Kirby of the National Security Council, who we often see in White House briefings, explained that a ceasefire is a total stoppage of fighting from both sides in the pursuit of a truce, whereas these pauses that they're calling for humanitarian purposes would be temporary, localized, and focused, he says, on specific goals. In this case, getting humanitarian aid into Gaza and getting civilians, hopefully hostages too, out.
All right, Atra El-Nashar live in D.C. for us tonight. Thank you.
Fox triple cast this evening, showing us the Mile 1 Taos Cam, Toyota Shooter Harbor Sky Cam as the sun makes it set. Looks all right out there with the fall color, and the HD radar doesn't show us a whole lot. The latest weather maker is actually fair weather high pressure. In other words, that gives you the clear skies, and it's out of Canada, so it's been giving us the chilly temperatures too. 49 right now after a low of 32 this morning, just 3 degrees off of a record low that would have been 29. That was set back in 1976. And this is the coldest morning, at least, that we've seen since way back on March 21st. So there you go. It looks like another cold one on the way for tonight, too. Winds out of the south at 3, humidity 31%. It is dry. 49 Baltimore right now after a high of 53, 47 at Cockeysville, 46 at Bel Air, 44 Elkton, some 40s along the eastern shore, and actually pretty much area wide right now. So another cold overnight. Looks like it is on the way. You take a look at the HC radar, and up here around New York State, there's some stray rain showers and snow showers coming off of the Great Lakes, part and parcel of some of the cold air coming over the relatively warmer Great Lakes waters, but that is gradually shutting down as the warmer air begins to move on in. Sunshine, that's going to stay with us the next several days. Look at the warmer weather, low to mid 60s, not too far away. So the chillier air, again, by Friday, a system skirt along the northern and western United States. It's going to give way. Warmer sunshine heading on in to the weekend. So the future scan says overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. Follow the clock through the overnight hours, well after midnight, well down into the 30s, even some 20s popping up once again by morning north and west. So you got to cover the plants or bring them inside once again, protect the exposed plumbing outside as well, like hose bibs and hoses as we head on into the day tomorrow after a chilly start by about 9, 10 o'clock. Temperatures do pick up. We're into the 50s by lunchtime. And there you go, touching about 60 tomorrow afternoon, which is closer. Still below, but closer to average. So widespread frost freeze for tonight, low 31. Once again, it's going to be a frosty start and cold. You'll have to do some scraping tomorrow morning, 60 tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to let you know when we could threaten 70. That's in my exclusive 10-day forecast. Stick around.
A nationwide nursing shortage now affecting enrollment at nursing schools. Why school leaders are being forced to turn potential students away. In tonight's Assignment America, the nursing shortage could get worse, and nursing schools are now being forced to turn potential students away. The National Desk's Angela Brown explains why this is happening.
Some nursing schools are facing a crisis themselves. They don't have enough staff, and now they're turning away some students. The dean of Cedarville University School of Nursing says they are blessed.
We are blessed, and we are